Before committing suicide on April 30th, 1945, Adolf Hitler and his mistress Eva Braun burned all their documents, pictures, everything. Hitler wanted nothing left behind. At that time, no one knew what happened in the bunker before Hitler's death. But now, after 70 years, thanks to a French officer, Commandant Raymond Rose, who is no longer in this world, and a private collector, some new political and personal documents of Hitler have come to light. These unique documents, which have now come to light for the first time, allow us to understand more clearly some of the key moments of Hitler's last days. What was the atmosphere like in a bunker? Why did Hitler marry Eva Braun just 24 hours before his death? Which of Hitler's closest associates betrayed him in the last 10 days of his life? When did he make the decision to commit suicide? And above all, what was it that made the Allied forces realize that this dead body was Hitler's? Once again, welcome back to the InfoX TV videos. Don't forget to subscribe us. After Hitler's death, everyone was trying to see and understand the bunker. On November 25th, 1945, Commandant Raymond Rose, a French officer, went inside the bunker. There were hidden stairs leading to a dark room. There he saw a dark and dirty room with scattered papers, overturned furniture, and candle wax lying everywhere. Rose found some documents that shed new light on Hitler's last days. These documents show that Hitler was steadfast in his decision until the end, and that he was looking for victory for himself even in his death. Just 10 days before Hitler's death, the dream of Nazi Germany, which had once been seen as ruling the world, had now become just a dream. Hitler's empire, once one of the most powerful empires in the world and the backbone of the Western powers, was now counting its last moments. Berlin, Hitler's dream and center of power, had become a pile of rubble. There was a scene of destruction, fear, and death everywhere. The bombs of the Allied forces were flying everywhere, and the Red Army was only 100 meters away. Hitler, who was about to be the target of his own prey, was now hiding in the darkness of a bunker. A bunker that was built 7 meters below the ground near the Brandenburg Gate in Berlin. This was no ordinary bunker, but it was made very strong and bomb-proof according to the design of Albert Speer, Hitler's personal architect. It was built in 1936, but then it was made even stronger after the Allied bombings became more dangerous in 1943 and 1944. This bunker was called the Führer bunker in German. The meaning of the leader is the leader's bunker. This was the bunker where Adolf Hitler, who dreamed of ruling the world, hid and spent the last days of his life. The atmosphere of the bunker was very depressing. Silence, thick concrete walls, cold and damp atmosphere, darkness reigned. This bunker was like a maze with small corridors and rooms where one felt suffocated. This bunker had a private space of 3 rooms for Hitler, one of which was a meeting room where he held meetings twice a day for his military operations. There was a small room for Eva Braun, who was his mistress, and a shared bathroom for both of them. The atmosphere of this bunker was full of depression and fear. Since it was underground, there was a mechanical ventilation system for the air that was noisy all the time. This noise was not only a cause of physical discomfort, but also mental torture for those living here. In the last 10 days, Hitler not only physically but also mentally broke down. He had been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, a disease that causes shaking hands. To hide his illness, he often kept his backhand in his pocket or placed it in such a position that the person in front of him could not detect it. In the last 10 days, his hand was constantly shaking and he had difficulty walking. Doctors said that in the last 10 days, Hitler's face was so white and tired that he began to look 10 to 15 years older than his age. All the officers who met him in those days were shocked to see his deteriorating health condition. Even Hitler's personal doctor in the bunker, Theodor Morell, gave him daily injections of glucose and vitamins, but all this was not enough to restore his health. Hitler's loss of control over his hand was the biggest evidence of his declining morale. The daily routine in the bunker was extremely boring. Every morning, there was a military meeting in which his generals informed him about the situation in Berlin. The news of his gradual loss of control over Berlin was frustrating Hitler. Hitler's nature included distrust, meaning he did not trust anyone easily, which is why even in his last days he was worried that one of his generals might betray him. And in reality, something like that happened. In the last days, when everyone was thinking of escaping from the bunker, Eva Braun supported Hitler. Eva Braun was Hitler's 13-year-old mistress. The two were not married, but she still lived in the bunker with Hitler. Experts say that living with Hitler in the bunker was Eva Braun's fault, and perhaps this was the reason for Hitler's weakness. Eva was a romantic and emotional girl who wanted to stay with Hitler until the end. Some letters of Eva were found that she had written to her friends. Only after reading these letters could we get some idea of Hitler and Eva's private life. Eva's purpose in life was to be with Hitler. In one of her letters, she wrote that this place is very dark, but I am happy here because Hitler is with me. Eva's daily routine inside the bunker was very limited. She often spent time in her room, arranging her photographs or sometimes having coffee with Hitler. But one thing that is clear from her letter is that Eva Braun was feeling very lonely. This letter not only shows Eva's love and loyalty, but also shows her fear and loneliness inside. Talking about the situation outside the bunker, Berlin had become a battlefield for the last 10 days. Light bombers were dropping bombs on Berlin every day and every night. The Red Army, the military of the Soviet Union, was fighting Hitler's army on the border of Berlin a few kilometers away from the bunker. Of course, Hitler's army had 900 tanks and about 500,000 German soldiers to protect Berlin at that time. But despite all this, the forces of Nazi Germany were still roaring. Hitler, who had dreamed of ruling here for 1,000 years, now seemed to be failing miserably. The people of Berlin were trying to save their lives by hiding under bunkers and rooftops. But on the other hand, only Nazi propaganda and music could be heard on the radio. As soon as he saw it, the Red Army soldiers defeated the German forces on the outskirts of Berlin on all sides. A German soldier said that when he returned to Berlin, he found it difficult to recognize the city because there was only heaps of rubble everywhere. This was the time when the German army also began to see the end of Hitler's leadership. A few days before Hitler's death, another drama unfolded. Hermann Göring, who was the chief of the German Air Force in the Nazi regime, showed his intention to gain power. Hermann Göring was a close associate of Hitler, to whom Hitler had given various positions. In 1933, Hitler made him in charge of the Air Ministry. In 1935, Commander-in-Chief of the German Air Force. In 1936, in charge of the 4 air plans, which were designed to boost Germany's economy. And then in 1941, Hitler made Hermann Göring his successor and deputy, meaning that Göring was to take control after Hitler. Göring believed that Hitler was trapped in Berlin and that now he should take control of the leadership. He sent a telegram to Hitler in which he wrote that if Hitler could no longer make decisions, he should officially transfer the leadership. Seeing this telegram, Hitler, who was already quite depressed, became furious. He removed Göring from all positions and declared him a traitor and issued orders for his arrest. Later, Hermann Göring was arrested and sentenced to death, but he took his own life by consuming poison just a few hours before his death. On one hand, the Red Army was advancing into Berlin, and on the other hand, Hitler's close associate committed treason. This whole situation was forcing Hitler to do things he had never thought of. It was April 29, 1945. Hitler ignored the people around him and said that the time had come. At 1 o'clock in the night, he officially married his longtime mistress Eva Braun. This marriage took place in the same bunker in front of 2 or 3 officers. After the marriage, he ignored his secretary and asked her to write his will, which contained Hitler's words, "My wife Eva and I have chosen death. For us, death is better than the shame of surrendering." Unfortunately, this marriage lasted only 1 day. On April 30th, 1945, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Hitler poisoned his dog named Blondie and went into the room with Eva. Exactly 24 hours after the wedding, both of them ended their lives in the room. Hitler committed suicide with a pistol, while Eva died by swallowing a cyanide capsule. The bunker staff had prior instructions, so they took both their bodies to the bunker and set them on fire. Hitler did not want to leave any trace behind him. Before his death, Both of them burned documents and their pictures and finally ordered himself to be burned. All this shows that Hitler did not want to surrender himself to his victim even at the end of his life, even if the Soviet soldiers could capture his body and show it to the world as a trophy. That is why he ordered his body to be burned. When the Red Army reached the bunker, they found only burnt remains, but they were Hitler's. After a lot of testing, it was found that when they took samples of Hitler's teeth, Hitler hated going to the dentist, so he had a very unique gold bridge made that covered his broken teeth. This bridge was used to identify Hitler's body. I hope you will like and share this video of InfoX TV. Thank you very much for your loving comments. See you in the next wonderful video. Take care.